Hey guys, it's Allie with Chaos Monkey, and I had an Amigurumi video a few days ago where I asked from Red Heart Amigurumi yarn. I had 4 different types of yarn. I had the unicorn, I always want to say manatee, but it's a narwhal. I always say manatee. Narwhal, unicorn, elephant, and what was the other one? Mermaid. And I asked everybody to kind of give me a vote, and I shut down voting the 9th. Well, not literally, just I did the vote on the 9th at midnight to see what the winner was at that time, because we kind of had to have a cutoff so I could start. And the winner was elephant. By far, it was elephant. And then I had it written down. I don't have it in front of me. But the second one was the unicorn. The third one was the mermaid, and the fourth winner was the narwhal. So, but the elephant won by a large amount. So we're going to start the elephant, and I just wanted to go ahead and just unpack it so you guys could see what it looks like as I unpack it, and then I'll start working on it. So I'm going to do this one. The elephant does have a crochet and a knit pattern. So I am going to do one in each, and I hope I have enough yarn. I hope, because you know crochet uses more. I'm hoping by doing one in crochet and one in knit that we don't have any problems running out of any yarn. So we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and just take this off. This almost got ripped in half. I'm trying to keep it in one piece. I don't know why. I don't know. My cat got a hold of it, but so as you can see, they just wrap it in a disc. And I have to start caking these up, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these apart for you guys. I thought they were in completely separate rings, but on a comments, somebody said no, they're attached. You still have to cut them apart. And then I was like, well, that makes sense, because it'd probably be easier to wind that way. Yeah, so here's what she was talking about. They do just do a little tie here, just so they can wind them up. So you do have to cut them here, so I'm going to grab some scissors, and I'm just going to snip this part. It's like they felted it together, or like melted it, I should say, since it's not wool. And I'm just going to go ahead and pop these out really carefully, because I do not want to tangle them. And actually, what might be safer, come to think of it, is I'm going to just wind one at a time from this onto the ball winder, and then snip it, and then start a new one, because I have a feeling these are all going to tangle if I try to do them all at once. So I'm going to go ahead and find this edge and wind this up, and I'm going to wind them all up, and I'll be right back. I did take this one off, excuse me, and I wound it up separately, and it almost tangled immediately. So what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of holding it here and winding, and I just wanted to show you how much easier it is. You can't see my ball winder, it's over here to my right, but that's how I'm going to wind up the rest. Sorry about the shaking. I'm almost done with the white. And there we go. So I would suggest winding it up this way instead of taking each ring off individually. And that is because the minute I put this down and I pulled one end, it tangled almost immediately on the ball winder, so it took me a minute. So I'm just going to do one at a time. If you have a ball winder, this is the way I suggest you do it. And then you just hold it in this hand to tension it as it comes off. Anytime you use a ball winder, you always want to tension your yarn, whether it comes off a Swift or off another cake. I've seen some people trying to use a ball winder without tensioning the yarn, and that bad things happen. You end up getting tangles, knots, your balls are too loose, the tension is weird in the cake, or it flies off the ball winder because there's not enough tension on the cake itself as it's spinning. So all kinds of weird stuff can happen. Plus, when it's going through your fingers, you can control how tight the cake is. You want to watch that with wools. You don't want to stretch out a wool when you cake it, so you want to keep your tension fairly medium. Other balls you might want to wind a little tighter for some reason, or you need to fit a lot of yarn onto a small cake. Acrylics you can usually wind pretty tight, but I wouldn't overdo it because again, you'll lose your stretch. But yeah, I've just seen people who haven't used a winder before try to wind directly to a ball winder without any tension. It also lets you stop any knots. So as it's flowing through your fingers, sometimes it will knot up as it's moving, and you can just pull the knot out because it's not technically a knot, it's just the yarn tangling on itself, and you can catch that. Or if there's big knots, you can kind of say, wait, what's going on, and stop the whole procedure because it's also going through your fingers for tension and for whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and snip this at the white. I'm going to finish winding over here and pull it off my ball winder. Now you will see this is a cotton, so it's not going to close up that hole in the middle because, you know, this is the middle of the ball winder. So all I do is I just wind the outside tail fairly sturdy and then tuck it in, which is hard to do with these nails, but I usually tuck it in about twice, and then you pull from the center so the ball can collapse. Now this yarn is pretty slippery, so it shouldn't have a problem collapsing in the middle without tangling. However, you might want to rewind it when it gets too low because it could get tangled on itself. And then as you can see, this ball might be wound tighter than this ball because this ball was a mess. So I'm actually going to weigh them when I'm done to see if they all have the same amount of yarn. So I can determine which elephant I'm going to crochet and which one I'm going to knit, because crochet takes about 2/3, was it 2/3 or 1/3 more yarn than knitting? I can't remember. But anyway, crochet definitely takes more yarn than knitting. Is it 2/3? Can't be 2/3. Maybe it's 1/3 more. I think it's 1/3 more yarn than knitting. So anyway, I'm going to finish these up and then I'll weigh them. Okay, so I have finished winding these all up on the ball winder. It only took like 5 minutes to do the pink, white, and light gray. The dark gray just took a little longer because I pulled it off first by itself and I tangled it a little bit. So it doesn't take very long at all. I would suggest getting a ball winder even if you don't want to get a yarn swift, like even if you do acrylic, because it's really handy to cake up skeins that are like half used. When they get all squishy and tangly. Sorry guys, I needed a drink. It really helps to keep them from getting worse in your stash. So you don't have to spend a whole bunch of money on a Swift if you just do acrylic primarily, but a ball winder is helpful. And of course you didn't have to, you can always wind these up by hand if you don't have a ball winder, into a ball individually. And I'm just going to grab a pen so I can write down how much each ball is, so I don't forget the weight to see if they are even. Now the overall tag says, where are you? Number 1, hook size, says you can wash and dry it in the washer, which I wouldn't do for an Amigurumi. 100% acrylic, here we go, 239 yards. So it says it's 239 yards, and I ripped right through the weight, so let me get over there. 3.5 ounces, or 100 grams. So first we're going to weigh everything in grams, since it's easier for grams on smaller amounts. And I do have a scale. It's an old scale, so, and we're going to see if we got 100 grams of yarn. 25, 50, 76, 101. So yes, it does look like they are even balls. So 101 total, because one of them was a little fatter. So the light gray, 25, the dark gray, 25, and you can see the difference between how tight you wind, how big the balls will look. The dark gray looks a lot bigger than the light gray, but that's only because I wound it looser. So there's really no way to tell by ball size what the weight is sometimes. Pink, And I think the white was the only one that was a little bit over, which is always nice to be over than under, I'll tell you that. And then the white was 26. Yep. So they are definitely even. They don't adjust it for what you will use more of in the project. So for instance, you know you're going to use up probably all the dark gray, all the light gray, or pretty close to it, and very little of the white and the pink, because that's just part of the clothing. So, yeah. Yep. So at least now I know what I'm working with, so my options are open. I can crochet or knit with either color. So I don't have to like watch whichever one has more yarn to use for the crochet version. So I'm just worried overall that we'll run out, but I don't think we will, because logically the elephant pattern comes in knit and crochet, and you're supposed to be able to make 2 amigurumi out of all of this. So that tells me that the crochet, if you can make 2 crochet elephants out of this, that is plenty to do 1 crochet, 1 knit, because the knitting takes 1/3 less yarn than crochet. So we should be perfectly fine. I just wanted to get that out of the way before we started, and find out that we didn't have enough for whatever reason. And I would just suggest winding them up the way I did. Even if you're going to ball it up by hand, I would still leave it on the disc and pull off 1 color at a time. And then when you hit the color change, to snip that off, roll up the next one. Because if you unring them, they are going to collapse and tangle, because this guy tangled almost immediately when I tried to wind it up. And it's so much faster just to wind off the ring, even if you're winding it by hand into a ball. I would not take it all apart to start. I mean, you can. It'll just take you a lot longer to ball it up. Okay. Sorry, my video cut off, so I'm going to have to do a little editing, but what I was saying was I can do either one of these in crochet or knit. It's the same amount of yarn, and that crocheting does take about 1/3 more yarn than knitting does, depending on what you're making. But on average, crochet always takes at least 20%, if not 30% more yarn, depending on what fabric you're making. There's a lot of variables in there, so that's just a general rule of thumb. From what I've heard, Tunisian will take, like the Tunisian simple stitch will use a lot less yarn than, you know, a single crochet stitch, you know, just on average, crochet takes more yarn than knitting. So I wanted to be sure to weigh these to make sure that I didn't run out if they had them weighed differently. So that tells me that all these balls are even in the colors. So no matter which one you pick up, they're going to be 25 grams each for a total of 100 grams. So you don't have to worry about that. And I'm going to go ahead and start making the elephants, but I'm not going to do it on camera, only because I haven't done amigurumi this small before, and there might be a lot of trial and error. But I'll go ahead and make these and come back and kind of give you impressions of the yarn and of the pattern for both the knitting and the crochet. And then we'll just kind of go from there, kind of see what we want to do with the other to make the others. I might take a break after these just because I'm doing other things, and then come back to doing some more amigurumi, but I'll keep you guys posted. And that's it, so I will talk to you later.